The first sign of betrayal didn't come from a heated argument or a slipped secret. It came from a simple push notification on my tablet, motion-detected, front porch. I was sitting in my kitchen in Oregon sipping my morning black coffee, expecting to see the delivery driver dropping off a package. Instead, the screen showed my 32-year-old daughter, Jessica, dragging a designer suitcase up the steps of my oceanfront home in Maui. She wasn't alone. Behind her trudged her husband, David, holding 2 golf bags. And right behind him, fanning herself with a travel magazine, was Brenda, David's mother. I stared at the screen, my coffee turning bitter on my tongue. I hadn't authorized a trip. I hadn't even known Jessica was leaving the state. The Maui house wasn't just a vacation rental. It was the home my late husband and I had bought 40 years ago, a modest 3-bedroom cottage that held our best memories. I maintained it, I paid the taxes, and I kept the keys. On the screen, Jessica punched the 4-digit code into the smart lock. The light turned green. She pushed the door open, turning to her mother-in-law with a wide, eager smile. "Welcome to our little slice of paradise, Brenda." Jessica announced, her voice picked up clearly by the porch microphone. "Go pick any bedroom you want. The master suite has the best ocean view." Our slice of paradise. Her master suite. I didn't gasp. I didn't cry. At 65, I had buried a husband and rebuilt my life from the ground up. I was far past the age of dramatic gasps. I simply zoomed in on the feed. Brenda stepped inside, looking around with a critical eye already pointing at the vintage rattan furniture my husband had loved. I didn't need to hear the rest to know what was happening. Jessica had hijacked my home to impress her in-laws. But what she didn't know was that I was watching. And I was already deciding how this trip would end. For the next hour, I kept the tablet propped against my coffee mug. The indoor cameras, which I usually only activated when the house was empty to check for storm damage, gave me a clear view of the living room and kitchen. Brenda dropped her heavy purse onto my fragile glass coffee table. "It's a bit dated, isn't it, Jessica? I thought you said your family had money." Jessica's shoulders tensed. She hovered around Brenda like an anxious server. "Oh, it's just my mother's old taste. David and I plan to remodel it completely once it's passed down to us. We'll knock down that wall, put in a modern island." David simply grunted, opening my refrigerator. "Nothing in here but bottled water." "Jess, didn't you arrange for groceries?" "I'll go to the market right now." Jessica rushed to answer. "Use the card right." "Of course," David replied, already sinking into my husband's favorite armchair. "Your mom's emergency card has a high limit. We're on vacation. Let's enjoy it." I tapped my fingernail against the kitchen counter. The emergency card. 2 years ago, when Jessica and David were struggling to qualify for a mortgage, I added Jessica as an authorized user on one of my credit accounts to boost her score and help with genuine emergencies. I paid the bill. I never checked the itemized charges unless the balance spiked. I pulled up my banking app on my phone. A fresh pending charge sat at the top of the list, $3,400 for 4 first-class tickets to Kahului Airport. She hadn't just taken her in-laws to my house. She had used my money to fly them there. Jessica had always craved Brenda's approval. Brenda was a woman who demanded luxury, but rarely paid for it. And my daughter had apparently decided to buy her affection using my assets. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt a cold, sharp clarity. People treat you exactly how you allow them to treat you. I opened the card settings on my banking app. My thumb hovered over a specific button. I decided to give her one chance to tell the truth. I dialed Jessica's number. Through the tablet screen, I watched her pull her phone from her pocket, glance at the caller ID, and freeze. She motioned for David and Brenda to be quiet before answering. "Hi, Mom." Her voice was unnaturally bright, echoing both through the phone and the camera feed. "Hi, Jessica. I'm just looking over some paperwork. Where are you today?" She didn't miss a beat. Oh, just at home. Running some errands around town. The weather here is awful, pouring rain. I looked out my own window in Oregon. It was indeed raining. But on my tablet, sunlight streamed through the Maui windows, illuminating the dust motes around her lying face. Rain can be tough, I replied smoothly. Do you have your emergency credit card with you? I got an alert about some unusual airline charges. She swallowed hard. I watched her pace into the kitchen. Airline charges? That's weird. Must be fraud, Mom. You should probably ignore it. The bank usually sorts those things out. Fraud, I repeated. You're right. Good thing you told me. I'll handle it immediately. Okay, love. You gotta go. She hung up before I could say goodbye. On the screen, Jessica exhaled a massive breath and turned to David. She bought it. We're fine. I smiled, a tight, humorless expression. I looked back at my banking app. She had called it fraud. Who was I to argue? I tapped the button labeled Report Lost, Choose Stolen, and Freeze Account. A green check mark appeared. The card was dead. Jessica grabbed her purse, jingling the keys to the SUV I kept parked in the island garage. I'm going to get the groceries, Brenda steaks, lobster, whatever you want. I closed the banking app. Cutting off the money was only step one. Now it was time to secure my house. I scrolled down my contacts and tapped the name of the one man on the island I trusted more than anyone. Chemo answered on the second ring. Aloha, Cynthia. You keeping warm up there. Trying to chemo. I kept my voice steady, professional. Chemo had looked after my property for 15 years. He was a retired contractor, a man of few words, and someone who respected boundaries as much as I did. Need me to check the storm shutters? He asked. No, I need something a bit more specific. I paused, glancing at the live feed. Jessica was backing my SUV out of the driveway. I have unauthorized people in the house. I need every lock changed. Today. Silence stretched over the line for a few seconds. Unauthorized, Chemo repeated. Not a question, just processing the information. Yes. They just left to run an errand. The house is empty. I knew Brenda and David had gone down to the beach, leaving the property completely vacant for the moment. Can you get there before they return? I'm 10 minutes away, Chemo replied. The sound of a truck engine roared to life in the background. Deadbolt sliders and the smart hub. Everything. Erase the old keypads. Take the physical spare keys. When you're done, I want you to lock the gates. Understood. Chemo didn't ask if I was sure. He didn't ask who was staying there. He only cared about the name on the deed. What happens when they come back and can't get in? That won't be your problem, I answered. In fact, I'm transferring your annual bonus early. I want you to turn off your phone, take your wife, and spend the next week at that resort in Wailea. You're unavailable. A low chuckle came through the speaker. Sounds like a hard job, Cynthia, but I'll manage. House will be locked down in under an hour. Thank you, Chemo. I ended the call and leaned back in my chair. There were no lawyers to call, no police to involve. This was my property, and I was simply doing some routine maintenance. Whatever happened next was entirely up to gravity. The grocery store in Wailea is known for two things: carrying imported luxury goods and having excruciatingly slow checkout lines. I knew exactly how long it would take Jessica to fill a cart with prime rib imported cheeses and expensive wine to impress Brenda. About 45 minutes later, my cell phone buzzed. It was Jessica. I let it ring. It buzzed again. Then a text came through. Mom, the emergency card isn't working at the store. The cashier says it's frozen. Can you unfreeze it? I poured myself a second cup of coffee and typed back, I reported the fraud like we discussed. The bank canceled the card. A new one will arrive at my house in 7 to 10 business days. The response was almost instantaneous. What, Mom? You need to call them and reverse it right now, I typed back slowly. I can't reverse a fraud claim on a canceled card, Jessica. You said it wasn't you. Are you saying you lied? I watched the three little typing dots appear and disappear on the screen. She was trapped. If she admitted she made the charges, she confessed to stealing from me. If she stuck to the fraud lie, she had no money. 10 minutes later, the driveway camera activated. Jessica's rental SUV sped into the driveway, braking aggressively. She threw the door open, marching toward the front porch. She didn't have any grocery bags. David and Brenda were walking up from the beach holding sandy towels. "Where are the steaks?" Brenda asked, looking annoyed. "I told you I get low blood sugar if I don't eat by noon." Jessica looked flushed, panicked. "There was a glitch with the bank. My card didn't work." "David, give me your credit card. I'll go back." David patted his board shorts. "I didn't bring my wallet to Hawaii, Jess. You said your mom's card was covering the whole trip. I left mine in my desk at home so I wouldn't lose it in the ocean." Jessica's face drained of color. She turned toward the front door. "Fine. Let's just go inside and I'll call the bank." She reached for the smart lock keypad. Jessica pressed her thumb against the lock to wake it up. She rapidly tapped in her 4-digit code. The lock blinked red. Beep, beep. She frowned, wiping her finger on her shorts, and tried again, pressing the numbers slower. Red light. Beep, beep. "What's wrong with it?" Brenda huffed, shifting her weight from one foot to the other. "It's too hot out here. Just open the door." "I don't know, the battery must be dying," Jessica muttered. She dug into her beach bag and pulled out the physical spare key she had secretly copied years ago. She slid it into the keyhole and turned. It didn't budge. The pins inside didn't align. Chemo had replaced the entire cylinder. Jessica yanked the key out, staring at it as if it had transformed into a snake. "David, try the side door." I watched them scramble. David jogged around the side of the house, only to find the heavy wooden gate padlocked shut. He peeked over the fence. "The sliding doors look locked too." Brenda dropped her sandy towel on my clean porch. "Jessica, this is ridiculous. You said this was your house. Why can't you even get inside? It is our house." Jessica snapped her panic, finally breaking through her eagerness to please. "Just let me think." She pulled out her phone and dialed a number. A moment later, my tablet picked up the sound of a robotic voice echoing from her phone speaker. "The number you have reached is temporarily unavailable." Chemo had kept his word. He was officially on vacation. "The caretaker's phone is off!" Jessica gasped, leaning against the doorframe. She looked through the front window. Her expensive luggage, David's golf clubs, and Brenda's designer purse were all sitting comfortably in my living room, completely out of reach. "Well, call a locksmith," Brenda demanded, her face turning pink from the midday sun. "I can't," Jessica whispered, staring at her phone screen. "I don't have any money." "The card is canceled." Silence fell over the porch. The reality of their situation settled heavily between the three of them. My phone began to ring. I let it play its cheerful tune for a few seconds before answering. "Mom!" Jessica shrieked. "What is going on?" "The door code won't work. My key doesn't fit, and Chemo's phone is disconnected." I kept my voice light, conversational. "That sounds frustrating. Are you still running errands in the rain?" Dead silence. Then a shaky breath. "Mom, stop. I know you know we're in Maui. Just open the door remotely from your app. All our stuff is inside." "I can't do that," I replied, taking a sip of coffee. "I had the locks replaced this morning because the security cameras showed 3 strangers entering my property. I don't know who they are, but they definitely weren't invited." "Strangers? It's me. Your daughter. My daughter told me she was in Oregon." I stated, the warmth completely gone from my voice. My daughter wouldn't steal thousands of dollars to fly her in-laws to a house she doesn't own. So whoever is standing on that porch isn't someone I recognize. Cynthia, listen to me. Brenda's shrill voice suddenly cut in. Jessica had put me on speakerphone. This is David's mother. We flew all the way out here. You are acting incredibly petty. Open this door immediately. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Brenda, you are standing on my private property. You arrived without an invitation using stolen funds. If you do not step off my porch in the next 5 minutes, I will turn the security footage over to the local authorities for trespassing. You wouldn't dare, Brenda scoffed. Jessica practically owns this place. Jessica doesn't own the dirt under your sandals, I corrected her. She is a guest who abused her privileges, and as of today, those privileges are permanently revoked. Mom, please. Jessica begged, the facade completely shattered. We have no money. David doesn't have his wallet. Where are we supposed to go? That sounds like a problem for independent adults to solve, I said. Enjoy your vacation. I pressed end call. I kept the camera feed running mostly to ensure they didn't try to break a window. But they didn't. Breaking a window required a level of grit none of them possessed. David paced the driveway, dragging his hands over his face. Jess, you told me your mom gave us the house for the week. You said she paid for the flights as an anniversary gift. I meant she would have. If I asked, Jessica stammered, shrinking away from him. I just wanted to impress your mom. Brenda let out a loud, theatrical scoff. Impress me by making us homeless in Hawaii. David, call a hotel. Now. With what money, Mom? David snapped, turning on his own mother for the first time. Jessica used her mom's card for everything. I told you I left my wallet. Well, you have Apple Pay on your phone, don't you? Brenda demanded. David pulled out his phone, his face grim. Yeah. Attached to our joint checking account, which has exactly $400 in it until payday. Brenda looked horrified. $400 in Maui wouldn't cover a single night in a decent hotel, let alone food for 3 adults for a week. The illusion Jessica had built the wealthy heiress providing a life of luxury for her husband's family dissolved right there on the concrete driveway. Get my bags, Brenda ordered, pointing at the glass door. I can't, Jessica cried. They're locked inside. Then we sleep in the rental car, David muttered bitterly, walking away from both of them toward the SUV. Unless you want to sleep on the beach, Mom. For the next 10 minutes, they bickered. Jessica cried, David yelled, and Brenda complained about her blood sugar. Eventually, they piled into the SUV and backed out of the driveway. I watched the empty porch for a few minutes. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt clean. The infection had been lanced. I turned off the tablet, stood up, and went to water my plants. The next 3 days were quiet. I didn't reach out, and I blocked their numbers so I wouldn't have to listen to the inevitable barrage of excuses and demands. Through the security system, I saw them return exactly once on the 3rd day, accompanied by Chemo. He unlocked the front door, stood in the entryway with his arms crossed, and watched as they carried their suitcases out. They didn't linger. They didn't look at the cameras. Later, Chemo called me. They're gone, Cynthia. Bags packed, keys left on the counter. Did they say where they stayed? I asked. Chemo chuckled. From the mosquito bites on the son-in-law's legs, I'm guessing they slept in the car at a beach park the first night. Then they found a cheap hostel near the airport. The mother-in-law looked like she wanted to chew glass. Thank you, Chemo. You enjoy the rest of your week. When I finally unblocked Jessica's number a week later, there were no demands. Just a long, quiet voicemail. Mom, it's Jess. We're home. David's mom isn't speaking to me. Or to David. It was an awful trip. We had to eat instant noodles from a convenience store for 5 days. I know what I did was wrong. I just I wanted them to respect me. I'm sorry. I listened to the message twice. I didn't call her back immediately. An apology born out of humiliation isn't the same as an apology born out of understanding. She still thought the core problem was that she got caught, not that she had used me. I went to my home office and drafted an email. I attached the invoice for the first-class tickets and a screenshot of the canceled credit card. Jessica, I wrote, respect cannot be bought with stolen money. I will not seek reimbursement for the flights. Consider it my final financial contribution to your marriage. You are no longer authorized on any of my accounts, and you will not have access to the Maui house going forward. Take care of yourself. I hit send. There was no need for a long debate. The boundary was set in stone. 6 months later, the Oregon winter grew too cold for my bones. I packed a single suitcase, locked my front door, and took a direct flight to Kahului. Kimo met me at the airport. He didn't ask about Jessica, and I didn't offer any updates. The truth was, my daughter and I were speaking again, but the dynamic had fundamentally changed. Without my wallet bridging the gap, Jessica was forced to navigate her marriage on her own terms. David had to step up, and Brenda had learned the hard way that she couldn't bully her way into my assets. Our phone calls were brief, polite, and entirely independent. When Kimo's truck pulled into the driveway of the cottage, my chest felt lighter than it had in years. I walked up the steps and punched in the new customized code Kimo had set for me. The deadbolt clicked open with a satisfying thud. I stepped inside. The house smelled like sea salt and old wood. Everything was exactly where it belonged. My husband's chair sat by the window. The fragile glass coffee table remained unchipped. I opened the sliding glass doors, letting the Pacific breeze sweep through the living room. There was no noise, no demanding voices, no false pleasantries, no one pretending to be something they weren't. I walked into the kitchen, opened the refrigerator, and found it stocked with fresh fruit and cold water, courtesy of Kimo. I pulled out a pineapple, grabbed a knife, and sliced a piece for myself. Sitting on the lanai, watching the waves crash against the shore, I realized the most valuable thing I owned wasn't the real estate. It wasn't the money in the bank. It was my peace of mind. And for the first time in a long time, I held the only key.